My name is Ethan Miles. I'm 21 years old. And on the night of April 11th, while I was on my knees praying in my dorm room at Liberty University, my heart stopped. I was clinically dead for 9 minutes. Before that moment, my life was loud, not in a bad way, just full. I'm a political science major. My dad's a pastor. My mom leads worship. I grew up with God in every corner of my life. Here at college, I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do. I ran a small group for freshmen. I volunteered for outreach programs, and I spent a lot of my time online defending my faith. I followed voices like Charlie Kirk because they spoke with a clarity and a strength that I admired. They weren't afraid, and I didn't want to be afraid either. That day had been particularly rough. There was a debate on campus, one of those open forum things about faith and politics. It got heated, fast. A girl from the other side of the aisle, her voice shaking with anger, stood up and said that people like me, Christian conservatives, were the reason the country was filled with so much hate. I stood up. I had all the answers, all the verses, all the talking points ready. I defended my beliefs. I defended the leaders I respected, and I think I won the argument. But walking back to my dorm, I didn't feel like a winner. I just felt empty and tired. The noise from the debate was still ringing in my ears. That night, I knelt by my bed to pray. I remember thinking about my mom, how she always said prayer was just talking to God like a friend. But my prayers felt more like reports. I was telling God what was wrong with the world, asking Him to fix the other side. As I was speaking, a sharp, crushing pain shot through my chest. It felt like a bolt of lightning. I remember trying to call out for my roommate, Mark, but no sound came out. My vision blurred, the edges turning dark and fuzzy. All I could think about was the smell of the old wooden pews in my dad's church on a Sunday morning. Then, nothing. Complete silence. The pain was gone. The fear was gone. The noise from the day was gone. I was floating. I looked down and saw myself collapsed on the floor. My roommate Mark was on the phone, his face pale, shouting my address to a 911 operator. It was so strange. There was no panic inside me. It was like watching a movie about someone else. I could see the paramedics rush in. A few minutes later, I saw them put the paddles on my chest. I saw my body jump, but I felt nothing. Then I felt a gentle pull. It wasn't forceful. It was an invitation. I turned from the scene in my room and saw a soft pinprick of light. The space around me was dark, but it wasn't a scary dark. It was a restful, quiet dark. As I moved toward the light, I could hear a faint sound, a melody I couldn't quite place, and woven into it, I heard my mother's voice, clear as day, just whispering, "Jesus, please, my boy. Jesus, please." Her prayers were like a rope, guiding me forward. The light grew, and soon it was all around me. It wasn't a blinding light. It was a light that you could feel. It was warm, like the first day of spring after a long winter. I wasn't in a tunnel anymore. I was somewhere else. I was standing in a field, but the grass wasn't green. It was a color I don't have a word for. It glowed with its own life. The sky was like a swirling pearl, shifting with hues of gold and rose and a blue so deep it felt like forever. And there was a sound, a low, beautiful hum. It was the sound of pure peace. It was the sound of everything being okay. For the first time in my life, my mind was completely silent. No arguments, no anxieties, no comebacks, just stillness. Tears filled my eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. I felt like a soldier who had just been told the war was over. Then I saw someone walking toward me from the center of the light. He wasn't walking on the glowing grass. It was more like the grass bowed to him as he moved. He wasn't wearing a brilliant white robe or glowing so brightly I couldn't look. He was just there, and his presence changed the very air I was breathing. The air became love. It became life itself. It was him. It was Jesus. As he got closer, I saw his face. His eyes, they held the sorrow of 1,000 lifetimes and the joy of 1,000,000,000 sunrises all at once. There was no judgment in them, not a single trace. He looked at me, and I felt the walls I had built around my heart, the pride, the need to be right, all of it just dissolve. It didn't feel like he was reading my secrets. It felt like he was reminding me of who I was before I forgot. I fell to my knees. I couldn't stand. I just wept into the glowing grass. My whole life, I had been trying to fight for him, and I had never realized that all he wanted was for me to rest in him. He didn't say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." He just stood there, letting me cry. After a moment that felt like an eternity and no time at all, he spoke. His voice wasn't a booming command. It was as quiet as a thought you have in your own head, but it was more real than anything I'd ever heard. He said, "Ethan, you defended my name, but you did not always defend my heart." The words didn't crush me. They clarified everything. He reached down and it felt like he touched my mind. Suddenly, I wasn't in a field anymore. I was seeing scenes from my own life flash before me. I saw myself at my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard, firing off angry comments in a political forum. I saw the look of satisfaction on my face as I owned someone with a Bible verse, but I also saw the hurt and confusion on the other person's screen. I saw myself at protests, holding a sign about truth, but my jaw was clenched in anger. I saw prayer meetings where we spent more time praying against our enemies than for them. It was an avalanche of images. Christians arguing with Christians, believers mocking the lost. We were all using the right words: truth, righteousness, revival, but the spirit behind them was so often pride. It was the spirit of winning. It was the spirit of the world. Then he took me somewhere else. We were standing in a vast, dark space. Below us, I could see a map of America, but it wasn't made of states and cities. It was made of light and shadow, and the two were wrestling, swirling together like smoke. He pointed to one side. I saw massive crowds, stadiums full of people. They were chanting, "Truth, truth, we want truth." Their faces were passionate, determined. They were holding Bibles, but their faces were so hard. Their eyes were narrowed, full of suspicion and rage. They were looking for enemies. Then he showed me the other side. There were parades and gatherings there too. People were shouting, "Love, love is love." They were smiling and celebrating, but as I looked closer, I saw them mocking a cross. I saw them tearing pages out of a Bible and laughing. Their love had no room for holiness. It had no room for the God who is love. My heart ached. I looked at Jesus, and he was not looking at the map with anger. He was looking at it with a profound sadness. He said, "America no longer knows the difference between conviction and cruelty. They have forgotten that my truth must be spoken with my love, and my love is defined by my truth. They cannot be separated." Then he pointed again. A single platform rose out of the darkness, and standing on it was Charlie Kirk. He was speaking to a massive crowd. He was talking about revival, about taking the country back for God. He was passionate, and the crowd was roaring. He was saying things I had said myself, things I believed in. But then I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing behind the stage and in the crowd and all around were thousands upon thousands of angels. They weren't cheering, they weren't clapping, they weren't even smiling. They were just standing there, silent, their faces unreadable, unmoving. They were just watching, waiting. I didn't understand. "Lord," I whispered, "why aren't they celebrating? This is a move of God, isn't it?" Jesus turned his eyes from the scene to me. The sadness in them was deeper than the ocean. He said, "Many of my servants speak truth boldly. They build great platforms. They gather great crowds. But few of them stop to listen for my voice first. Tell them this: I do not bless division disguised as zeal. I do not anoint pride. A revival born from human anger will burn like straw and be gone in the wind. A revival born from a broken and contrite heart, that is the fire that will purify a nation. He paused, and the vision of the stage faded. Then he showed me two final things, two paths, two possible futures for America. In the first vision, I saw believers on their knees, not in stadiums, but in their living rooms, in their closets, in small churches. They were weeping. They were repenting not for the sins of the nation, but for their own pride, their own anger, their own lack of love. I saw pastors from different denominations washing each other's feet. I saw political rivals meeting in secret to pray for each other. And from this place of humility, a light began to grow. It wasn't a political victory, it was a holy fire. It started small, then it spread from heart to heart, family to family, until the darkness began to recede. Then he showed me the other path. It was terrifying. I saw the same stadiums, the same crowds, but the anger had grown. The political lines had been drawn through the middle of churches. People were choosing their party over their savior. I saw pastors endorsing candidates from the pulpit as their congregations fractured. I saw Christians online tearing each other apart over policies and presidents. And then I saw churches burning. I saw Christian leaders falling into scandal, one after another, consumed by the very power they sought. And I saw everyone pointing fingers, blaming the other side, blaming the world, blaming each other, and all the while, glowing faintly in the smoke-filled distance, were crosses, the symbols of a faith that had been left behind for a lesser kingdom. Jesus looked at me, his eyes pleading. America's greatest battle will not be between left and right, he said, his voice echoing in my soul. It will be between those who love power and those who love me. I couldn't take it anymore. I fell at his feet again. I want to stay here, I begged him. Please, Lord, don't send me back. It's too loud there. It's too broken. I'm so tired of the fighting. I just want to stay here in your peace. I meant it. I wanted nothing more than to stay in that place of stillness forever. He knelt down, and for the first time, I felt his hand on my shoulder. It wasn't a physical hand, but it was a feeling of pure, unconditional strength and comfort, a father's touch. He smiled gently. Ethan, your work is not done. You were a soldier, but now I am sending you back as a peacemaker. Go and tell them what you have seen. Tell them to love one another. Tell them to listen for my voice in the quiet. Their true enemy is not the person with a different opinion. Their true enemy is the pride in their own hearts. I can't, I whispered. They won't listen to me. You will not be alone, he said. Now go. I felt a sudden rushing wind. It wasn't a violent wind. It was like a deep breath being pulled back into a body. The field of light, the pearly sky, his face, it all began to fade, swirling away like a dream. I gasped. The first thing I felt was fire in my chest, a deep, searing ache. The second thing was the blinding, sterile light of a hospital room. The beeping of machines was deafening. Someone was screaming my name. It was my mom. She was holding my hand, her face soaked with tears. A doctor was shining a light in my eyes. Ethan, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. I tried to squeeze his hand, but my body felt heavy, alien. I started shivering uncontrollably. I had just left the warmth of heaven, and my body felt impossibly cold. I wept, not silent, peaceful tears like before, but loud, ragged sobs of a man who had been exiled. I had left home. The doctors couldn't explain it. 9 minutes without a heartbeat, no oxygen to the brain. They told my parents to prepare for severe brain damage if I woke up at all. But every test came back normal. They called it a medical anomaly, a 1 in a million fluke. My mom just kept whispering, "Thank you, Jesus." She knew. I spent days in that hospital, mostly in silence. How could I explain what I saw? How could I put words to the color of that grass, or the sound of that piece, or the look in his eyes? How do you tell people that the culture war they are so invested in is breaking the heart of God? But he told me to go and tell. So that's what I'm doing now. If you're watching this, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for or what leader to follow. That's not what this is about. Jesus didn't show me a political party in heaven. He showed me a family, and it was a family that was hurting. What I learned in those 9 minutes is this: God's voice is not in the shouting, it's not in the angry tweet or the viral sermon clip, it's in the stillness. It's in the quiet whisper that asks you to pray for your enemy, to forgive the person who hurt you, to choose humility when every part of you wants to be right. America's greatest battle isn't out there, it's in here. It's in my heart, and it's in yours. It's the daily choice between loving power and loving Him, between building our kingdom or His. So I'm just asking you to do one thing. Before you post that comment, before you share that article, before you speak, just stop, get quiet, and listen. Ask Him, Lord, is this your heart? Is this truth spoken with your love? Because heaven is real, Jesus is alive, and He is weeping for a church that has learned to fight but has forgotten how to love.